What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Bonnie Scotch. Thank you so much for clicking on my video today. I wanted to bring you a review for the Real Housewives of New York. This is the reunion, part one. And I obviously didn't review this show, but I wanted to touch on the reunion because I started watching the first 15 minutes and I was like, you know what? I have to talk about some things. I have to get some things off of my spirit about this show, which I am late to, by the way. I've never watched the previous seasons of Real Housewives of New York, and I kept hearing that this was a good season and that it was very entertaining, and I have to agree. It was entertaining, even though I found the problems to be a little bit stupid, like I do with a lot of the Housewives shows. Well, I only watch Atlanta, Potomac, Miami, and Ultimate Girls Trip. I think I saw like maybe the first season of Jersey, and I gave up on it since. But in any case, let's just jump right into it. I want to give some of my overall thoughts. Let's talk about the looks first of all. First things first, I thought Sai looked very beautiful. The gold was incredible on her skin. Her legs were buttered up and shiny, and I just love to see that. I want to see a buttery leg at all times. So it was very beautiful. The one thing I would change about Sai's outfit was the little diamond piece. I wish it was just like a all monochromatic gold, but that's just my little thing because I just love monochromatic looks, period, and I think she pulled it off well. Next, Jenna Lyons. I was disappointed to see her in jeans, but that's what Jenna Lyons gives, and I think that's something that she is intentionally trying to make her trademark. I don't think that anything about Jenna Lyons is unintentional, right? That said, let's move on. I didn't too much care for the look. And I want to give a shout out to Rodney the Voice, who pointed out that when it comes to the black women on these reunions, they're expected to go all out with all this glitz and glam and gowns and all of these things. But a lot of the franchises with the white women, they come like they're going dressed for a cocktail party. So I have seen the double standard. I have seen the difference in between the responses for what the women are wearing on the Black Housewives franchises as opposed to the white women, but we'll leave that where it is. Next up, we have Erin. I thought Erin looked like she was going to a cocktail party. I liked the hair darker, but it was plain. It was how she had it for the whole season, pretty much. Just a decent blowout. She didn't look bad, but it was just an okay look. Next up, we have Jessel. I thought Jessel looked absolutely amazing. I want those earrings. She just looked so sickening because that gold against her skin, it was like a very cool toned gold. And it just worked so well. And I was like, Jessel got her 10s for me as well as Sai. I think Jessel and Sai look the best. Next up, we have Brynn, who said that she was doing a mashup between Salem Witch Trials and OnlyFans. Very sexy pilgrim. Okay, Brynn. I thought this kind of looked a mess. I've seen Brynn wear much, much, much better on the show. Brynn actually had one of my favorite styles on the show as far as like her personal style and aesthetic. So I would have liked to see her glam it up a little bit more like she did on the show. She always wanted to have her back out and show everybody her back. Where was your back tonight? I would have loved to. This was the night to bring the back out. So I really didn't get that, but sure, she wants to be different and she loves the attention. So, and we'll get into that later. Next up, we have Ubah. I thought Ubah looked nice, but, and I'm being a stickler. I'm just like, I didn't like the ponytail with the dress. I thought the ponytail was a little bit too casual for the dress. I don't know what kind of hair I would have liked to see, but I just feel like that was a very around the way ponytail that you wear with like your sweatpants, like your everyday bop around thing, not for a reunion. Because I don't know, I just expect more from Ubah. I think that's what it is because she is always so beautiful and well put together that I was like, I wanted something different, but it is what it is. All right, so let me start with my overall impressions. All right, first up, I have Erin. I came away from this showing thinking that she was kind of like a spineless person. She was always going in the direction of where the popular vote was going, and I didn't like that. And she was always switching up her story and gaslighting. And Erin did too much for me. I have here some examples. She's always calling everybody sensitive when she has an issue with every little thing. I was disgusted at her behavior talking to Ubah when Sai and Jessel were having that confrontation. So she was kind of on the side talking to Ubah, like kind of making it hot. And I was like, this is not what friends do. So I didn't care for that. Also, Ubah was giving her the silent treatment whenever that whole fiasco went down with Erin pushing, Ubah pushing Erin in the pool and Erin taking Ubah's phone, and it was a mess and it gave me a headache. But I didn't like that when Ubah was upset and giving her the silent treatment, she wanted to say that Ubah was scaring her and intimidating her. Like it was very Karen like behavior, and I didn't appreciate it, and it was coded. It was coded. You know what I'm saying? If that's supposed to be your friend, it's like, why are you intimidated? Now, that's not to say that Ubah wasn't out of order later, and we'll get there. But it's certain things that Erin does and says that, and we're going to talk about it, and I think that we're going to address quite a bit in the reunion because I feel like Andy is really holding the girls accountable for this season. Like sometimes he'll let certain things slide with certain people, but it seems like he's getting on everybody appropriately for this one. So anyway, next up we have Jessel. I overall enjoyed Jessel. I enjoyed what she brought. I find her to be one of the most interesting housewives women that I've seen on a franchise. I'm so interested in how she built her connections in the fashion world. I think she's gorgeous. Her relationship with her husband is interesting as well, but I don't think it's the most interesting thing about her. Everything that's going on with her and her husband makes absolute sense to me, and I think she messed up telling the women that she and Pavitt have a sexless marriage. But we have context because we learned that they used to be best friends and they used to be roommates, and she had to go through IVF, and the way that they were trying to have this baby, they were doing things on a schedule. Not sexy. You know what I'm saying? So I understand why she has a sexless marriage for 2 years, and the women on this show were just so lacking empathy towards her plight and her situation, and I really didn't appreciate it. But we'll talk about that later. Now, I will say this about Jessel. She was very aloof in the beginning about how she was coming off about the lingerie that Jenna gave her. I didn't like the way she was like, going around the house saying ugly things about herself and about the gift. It's just like, if you see it and you don't like it, don't parade it around the house. Just take it off and like thank her. And I don't know. I feel like Jenna would give a gift for, I don't know. It was a lot. And I think Jessel can, again, she's aloof to her tone and the way she comes off, but I don't think she means any harm for real. Uh, the Tribeca comment, I think it was like out of this world. That's how I knew that I don't know what her familiarity is with New York. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, I think Jessel is that girl. I'm interested in her story. I want her to come back for the next season if possible. Actually, I want all of the women to come back for the next season because I think they have such an interesting dynamic. I think if you throw in one more girl in here who's enough of a bitch to really gather some of this, to really clean up some of the stuff that's going on in the show, we'll get there. Okay, period. Next up, we have Jenna. I like Jenna a lot. I'm interested in her story. I'm interested in more of her background. Every bit that she gives me, I am just like in awe of how vulnerable she's willing to be in front of the camera, showing her teeth surgery and her talking about her very rare skin disorder, talking about how she was outed by the New York Post and her job, J. Crew, had the nerve to email her about it, talking about confirm or deny whether or not you're lesbian. First of all, she needs to sue them. Why would your employer be asking you about your sexuality? The way I would be down to HR, the way I'd be like, excuse me, down to the HR office, post haste. So I didn't like that. But, I keep hearing that, Jenna comes off one way in her real life and another way on camera. And I think some people are just very aware of the cameras. But even though I like Jenna and there were things about her that impressed me, she also got on my nerves at certain points during this season because there were times when I just wanted her to say, bitches, I am 50 whatever years old. I'm a grown ass woman, old enough to be some of y'all's mothers up in here. Don't come at me questioning me about going to work and coming at me for this and that. Like, they just were like piling on her constantly, and she took it with so much grace. And I was like, see, this is they don't put bitches like me on these shows. They didn't have a bitch like me on this show to check it and be like, that's a grown ass woman. So it was times when I wanted her to be like, I'm JFL, period. Like, don't question me about whether or not I want to fly first class. You know what? Let's not get too into it. Let's move it on. Next up, let's talk about Bryn. Bryn is a very interesting character to me. And I feel like when she lets you in on her layers, that's when she appears the most interesting. But when she's putting on this overly flirtatious, overtly sexual type of persona, it wears me thin. It wears me out. There are times when I found Bryn to be absolutely insufferable. She shared her story about her childhood, and I felt for her, and I felt like that was very sad. And I feel as though because she had a painful upbringing, she overcompensates in her sexuality and it's just over the top. This is coming from me, okay? Somebody who is very flirtatious. I know myself and I will admit that about myself. I'm extremely flirtatious and I love to flirt just as a sport, just because I feel like it's fun, and flirting is a sexy muscle that needs to be worked. You get what I'm saying? But there's a time and a place for everything, right? And I feel like Bryn can be out of order. And I feel like because she's biracial and because she's of a certain complexion, her and a lot of racially ambiguous girls, biracial girls, light skinned girls, get away with certain things off of just how they look. You get what I'm saying? Y'all do it with Portia on Housewives. Y'all do it with Giselle on Potomac. It's certain girls that have a look that y'all like, and y'all let them say and do whatever they want. But that's a conversation for another day. But like I was saying, the incessant flirting as a personality trait is tired. It's kind of cringe. I want to like Bryn more, but let's talk more about Bryn as we go through the episode. Now let's talk about Sai, honey. I had high hopes for Sai. I really did. I'm from Brooklyn, New York as well. I was partially raised in Flatbush. I'm from like Flatbush and Crown Heights because where I'm from, it's kind of cuspy. So you can walk from Crown Heights into Flatbush, where I used to live, and that was where my grandmother lived in Flatbush. So even though I'm from Flatbush, I was raised in Crown Heights, and I was always at my grandmother's house, who was in like East Flatbush, right? So to be a Brooklyn girl, to be a Flatbush girl, I was like, ooh, 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 okay, what is she gonna give? That's what she gave. It was a thumbs down for me, even though I think that I don't want to see Sai necessarily go, but I wouldn't be surprised if she left and I wouldn't too much care. I think that Sai is piss poor representation of Brooklyn girls, Flatbush girls. I think that she's rude. I find her to be obnoxious. I find her to be, really ignorant and lacking empathy. And people who lack empathy, to me, ultimately ain't shit. There is not anything that I can do with a person who lacks empathy. There is no relationship that we can have, let alone be friends. So I'm shocked that Sai has friends. Later on, she mentions that she doesn't understand telling a bunch of grown women that you love them. You tell them that because you love them. It's that simple. Like, I understand that. You know what? We'll talk about the comment about her saying that she's broken later. But in any case, I feel like Sai stirs the pot a lot. I feel like when it's Mad Day, she's gonna spread your business. Even the faces that she makes when she gets defensive, it's like, girl, stop. You know what I mean? It's too much and not enough at the same time. I feel like Sai really wanted to come off like she was that girl, and she didn't give that for me. And that was very disappointing because I was rooting for you, Sai.
I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you learn something from this?
Next up, we have Ubah. I liked Ubah during this season. I enjoyed her throughout the season, even though I felt like there were times when she did a lot. She did the most. I still walked away from the situation feeling like I like her. That said, excuse me, let me adjust this. That said, upon watching this first episode of the reunion, I don't know how I feel about Ubah anymore. The incessant going after Jenna Lyons, I don't understand what your damage is. What did Jenna Lyons do to you? Did you work for her? Were you a disgruntled employee? What's going on? I have not seen any interaction with Ubah and Jenna that warranted all of these passive aggressive digs and remarks. It was like really ridiculous, and I was like, what is the reason? Like, it just was not cute. It's not cute. It's not gracious. It's not nice. It's like I just expect more from her. And you know what? Let's come back to Ubah. Let's come back to her, okay? All right. So we are starting this episode with Erin's package, right? She moved uptown. Jessel makes jokes about Tribeca, and Erin is saying, "Oh, you're joking. Oh my God, stop." Erin, lighten up. Clearly the girl is joking. You just look for a reason to be offended at something. And it's tired. Like, Erin wears me loose. She wears me so thin, y'all. Like, I don't know if I would be able to stomach her for real. Erin has a company called Homegirl. I don't know what this is, and I don't care. I'm not looking into it. But when white women say homegirl, or like they say, because when I experience white women saying homegirl, like they only say it to black women. And it's like, hey, homegirl. And it's like, I'm like, no, relax. I'm not your homegirl, so don't talk to me like that. Like, we don't have that kind of rapport. I don't know. Like, it just makes me uncomfortable. It's kind of coded. It's kind of like a microaggression. So I'm like, whatever. It may not be that context, but it's just like, we know that homegirl is a colloquialism that belongs to the black community. So when they start co-opting things, and it Andy asking her about this guy from $1 Million Listing that Erin is working with, and she's like, what you see is what you get. Ubah jumps up to say, unlike with Jenna. Where did that come from? Like, it's just so uncalled for. Even Andy had to pull you back. Like, are you not embarrassed? Like, I would be embarrassed because you look ridiculous for real. Like, and I really, when I tell you Ubah, I even tweeted about it. Ubah was one of my favorites, even though I feel like she wasn't on the show a whole lot, and she did a lot at times. And it's like, girl, you need to relax. But I still came away liking her. Now I'm like, I have to rethink my decision on that. You know what I'm saying? One thing I did love is how Andy got Erin together about how 8 o'clock is dinner time, and that she's out of order for only serving hors d'oeuvres at her parties. Like, it's mealtime, you need to have food here. So I'm happy whenever I see Erin getting called out. The whole cheese convo is dumb to me. It always was. Then Ubah jumps up to say, I think we should talk about how the three of you didn't want Jenna on the show. And I think she was implying that about Erin, Sai, and Bryn. And it's like, when you do stuff like that, you got to give people context, because Jenna presenting herself a different way on the show than she does professionally or in the world that she's in or whatever is not a reason for you to go at her like that. Like, let's just be very clear. You can say that you feel that maybe she misrepresented herself, or maybe you felt like she expressed powerhouse side of her, or whatever the case is, but taking these digs at her, it does not make sense. And it's so passive aggressive, and it's so pointed that I'm just like, what happened? with Jenna and Ubah? Did something happen off camera? Like, I need context, because Ubah, it looks like you're wilding for respect. You are wilding for respect. And we've seen all season the way you all have ganged up on Jenna, and I didn't appreciate it. I didn't like it at all. So it's triggering that feeling of like, okay, you're on my nerves, because all of that y'all were doing was too much throughout the season. But we're going to talk about it. We're going to get there. Okay, perfect. Now, mind you, I thought to myself, why is Ubah throwing bombs at Jenna? And then here Andy goes talking about that was a side bomb. The fact that we had the same thought was just wild to me. Anyway, I have so many pages of notes. This is crazy. I have like 6 pages of notes. Like, I was really going in. Ubah tells Erin that she isn't rude. She's elegant and polite, but she gaslights and she's a shit stirrer. So if she's a shit stirrer, if she stirs turds, how is that polite and elegant, Ubah? Is it Uchi Wally or One Mic? Is it Big Pimpin' or the story of OJ? Is it Headsprung or Love You Better? In this situation, you can't have both. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous to say somebody's a shit stirrer. They stir the turd. They gaslight, aka they're manipulative, intentionally manipulative. Because when somebody gaslights you, they are intentionally manipulating the situation so that you question the reality of what's going on. So how is that polite and elegant, Ubah? Like, what I don't like is that a lot of these girls talk out of both sides of their mouth, and we're going to talk about that again later because it comes up with a different persona, a different woman on this cast. We'll get there. Anyway, we talk about Jenna Lyons' package. We learn that she's still mourning her estranged mother, and I found that to be incredibly sad, because your mother is your everything. Your mother is your God. You come from your mother's womb, right? You cannot have like anybody in the room without a womb, pretty much. So like the feeling of abandonment, like I can't imagine what that's like, and I can't imagine how hard that is for people who experience that, right? So not having that connection is especially rough, and it definitely made me emotional. So we're going through the mom talk. Ubah is weeping. Sai is saying, I'm broken on the inside, but I don't want anyone to know that. I want everyone to feel happiness and positivity. I want to tell you, my face screwed up when she said that. Like the record scratched in my head when she said that. Clock this though. Andy goes, do you think that that lands? Do you think that you were successful in that? Ask the women their opinion. I said, get her. Get her, Andy. Get her. Drag her. Sai says she doesn't like opening up, but yet she barked on Jessel for not opening up about her story. And Jessel wasn't telling the story to her liking because she didn't want to hear about Jessel's parents. Meanwhile, a lot of people's parents are a big part of their story, are a big part of their cultural background, how you were raised. So I don't know why Sai felt the need to bark on Jessel about that. But you don't want to open up about anything. But everybody has to open up to you. Everybody has to share their story. You complained about Jenna not being open and vulnerable. She was one of the most open and vulnerable. So which one is it? Make it make sense. The one and one got to equal 2. Anyway, Ubah is talking again about how Jenna doesn't show herself. Bryn makes a great point regarding how she has no eyelashes, this rare genetic skin disorder, 11 million teeth surgeries, and it's just like, girl, what are you giving? You know what I mean? Like, what else do y'all want from Jenna? Like, because I feel like because she wasn't willing to share that she was dating whatever person she was dating, now all of a sudden she doesn't share anything. Some people that you're dating do not want their dating lives out there. They don't want people in their business, and that just is what it is. And you're not owed people's business. You're not entitled to that. So I don't understand what the problem is with Jenna. Anyway, Erin apologizes about stirring shit, about flying coach. Sai admits that they were hard on her. Sai goes, oh, you want to do first class? I was jealous. I was so confused by that. Sai, you can't fly first class? Are you telling me that these women can't afford first class? Sai is supposed to be this big content creator and she makes her money and she has all these brand deals and she's that fashion girl and she's got all these connections, honey, and you know, she's got employees, honey, and all of these things, but you can't afford first class and you feel some type of way about somebody who wants to fly that way because they got it. This is not making sense to me. And I didn't want to have to come on here and start dragging these girls, but I was like, you know what? You're not going to play in my face tonight. You're not going to play in my face. I'm not going to allow that. I'm not going to sit or stand for it. Next, the thing about Jenna's gifts, I found these women to be incredibly ungrateful. I do not understand how you were getting these gifts and you're complaining. And if Jenna wanted y'all to plug her and talk about the gifts, she would have told y'all, but she never asked y'all for that. She said that the gifts and the sponsorship or the brand collaborations, rather, they were old collabs. They're not even on sale anymore. But whenever people come to her house, they're like, oh, I want this or that. And gift giving is her love language. Guess what? I'm a gift girl. Down. I love giving and receiving gifts. I absolutely adore it. So I just didn't understand why they were coming for Jenna, and it felt like they were trying to find every little reason to really go for her. And I was like, I could never be friends with these girls. I really don't even know how Jenna could stomach them. And I wouldn't be surprised if she said, fuck y'all next season. I would be like, fuck y'all. Okay? We have this conversation about this double standard that Bryn tried to call out. First things first, Bryn. There's no double standard here. It was two completely different situations. You were supposed to go to Erin's birthday party that she was having at Catch. I understand that Catch is nasty. I understand you not wanting to go there. Instead of you telling her the truth, you lied and said you were going home to get in your bed, and an hour later you were posted up on Instagram at Casa Cipriani or wherever it was you was at. So that's different from Jenna going home early because she had to work the next day. She had a 6:30 call and it's 10 o'clock and y'all are getting lit and loose. She shouldn't have to justify that she got to go to work. And that's another thing, Bryn. I'm curious about what do you do for work? I'm curious to know. I'm not trying to take no digs about maybe she does have a 9 to 5, but I don't know what she does. She says she had a 9 to 5, but what does it entail? Do you do clerical work? Admin, like what is it giving for real? Because why are y'all mad about somebody going to do their job? Like when somebody got to work, I can't imagine me and my friends being anything other than understanding. Bitches got to work. Bitches got to pay their bills. Like, are y'all good? Are y'all okay? Andy addresses how dismissive the women were when Jen opened up about her anxiety and her skin disorder. Sai said, we apologize. Sai, you can't apologize on behalf of somebody else. You take ownership for what you said and what you did, and you say, I apologize. Don't apologize for nobody else. Because that's not an apology, sweetie. I don't know who taught you how to apologize to people, but that's not the way. Erin is talking about this is a sorority. We hazed her. Erin is 35 or 36, looking 42 or 43, talking about this is a sorority and we're hazing girls. All right. So now we have the women's fashion segment. They showed Sai and all that tired ass luggage that she brought to the Hamptons during the off season. Pressed, tacky, rude. Then she wanted to bring toilet paper. And it's like, now here's my thing. When you go into somebody's house and they're putting you up, ooh, sorry, I knocked on my microphone. When you're going to somebody's house and they're putting you up, the least you could do is bring some groceries, put some money on the groceries. Say, let's go to the supermarket and get some groceries. Don't come in talking about, oh, what kind of food you have and whatever else. Sai is just rude, tacky, toothless, crass, just out of order overall. And I just be looking at her like, yo, you really be wilding in here. And I'm just like, I just be so surprised that she goes as unchecked as she does. There are times when I was like, why don't some of these women just say, Sai, who the fuck are you talking to? Who the fuck are you talking to? But just to like run them up off you and let them know, like, I'm really not that one. Don't talk to me like a fucking child in these streets. You get what I'm saying? Because I'll fucking drag you, bitch. For real. And when I say drag you, I mean with words. I'm a words girl. I like to fight with my words. I feel like words are a sign of intelligence, right? When people jump up and they want to fight all the time, to me, it's a sign of low intelligence. If you can't express your words and get back at a person without like wanting to resort to violence, you need to work on your reads, work on your comebacks, just work on it overall. Okay? Step your shit up. Stop wanting to tussle with everybody in the fucking streets because that leads to going to jail. Right? And who wants to do that? You know what I'm saying? So just keep it at the mouth and you'll be good. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, Jenna said, when I was trying to attract men, I did everything through their lens. And I think that that is something for women to think about. You know, when you buy these clothes, when you go and you dress up, are you dressing for the male audience or are you dressing for yourself? Truly. I think that a lot of women are socially conditioned to be pleasing or to have a certain feminine presentation or to perform femininity for men in a certain way. And it is something to watch because it can be exhausting. You know what I mean? Anyway, I was happy to see Sai getting called out for being so mad at Bryn mentioning Connecticut. Sai, you opened up your mouth to Erin and Bryn. The moment that Ubah shared with Sai who she was dating and all of the details and said, oh, don't tell anybody, I said, Ubah, that's your mistake right there. And Ubah, there is where you messed up. That's what I was singing when that moment happened. I was like, oh, come mad. Because, like, Sai gives me when it's mad day, she's going to air your shit out. Like, just to throw darts at you. Like, people really take your business and they'll twist it and tell it to people just because they're upset. So you really got to watch who you tell your business to. Anyway, Sai apologized and Bryn called her out for talking about her for 6 months in interviews, calling her whores and jobless and things like that. So I'm happy to see Sai get called out. They got in Erin's ass for talking shit about Jessel's marriage. It sounds weird. Yes, it does, but that is their business. All of this shit about Pavic going to Vietnam for a day. It did sound like a bunch of shit, but that's their marriage. You know what I'm saying? Jessel probably don't care. She got her own shit going on. Whatever arrangement they got going on works for them. Leave it alone. Worry about your own marriage. You get what I'm saying? Erin was saying that it wasn't her intention. Erin, once again, is full of shit. Yeah, so again, I'm just glad that Erin didn't forgive Sai right away for the venomous behavior that she displayed. It was actually disgusting. Like, why are you more mad at Bryn for saying something to Ubah about the guy she's dating than you are at yourself from sharing information that Ubah told you not to share? Make it make sense. Sai, you're not making sense. You're just venomous and ridiculous. And what is also interesting about Sai is that, you know, when she would interact with her husband and she would bring back home the shit with the pillow talk, he was always way more empathetic and way more nurturing to people's situations than Sai was. I didn't appreciate the comment that he made to Ubah about why you're single because, first of all, it's none of your business. And, you know, we really need to watch hinging a woman's worth to whether or not she has a man. That's not everybody's priority. That is y'all's priority, not y'all. I'm just saying, like, a lot of women prioritize being married. You get what I'm saying? That's not everybody's story. Some people have dreams and goals and visions that don't involve a man or marriage or kids or whatever the case is. So just respect women as autonomous beings with their own thing going on. Like, it just doesn't need to be hinged to a man for it to be, like, real and valid. Like, is she less of a woman because she doesn't have a man by her side? It's just like a ridiculous comment to make. I'm glad he apologized. I'm glad Ubah was like, baby, I'm good. You know what I mean? That was what it was. So what else do we have here? Okay, we have Jessel's package. We talk about her marriage, whatever. If it works for them, it works for them. Jessel is in New York for a decade, but she thinks that Tribeca is up and coming. That's weird. Andy asks Sai if she still thinks that Jessel was lying about having sex with Pavitt. Sai goes on to say it's none of her business, but then she goes on to say that they don't look like they have a connection. This is another instance where I find somebody's talking out of both sides of their mouth, right? Because if it's none of your business, why are you going on to say that it doesn't look like they have a connection? Worry about the connection you have with your man. Like, I just don't understand that. Like, all this commentary on Jessel's business. And again, I wish Jessel didn't say anything. Like, there are just certain things you don't say to people, period. I don't care, like, how close you are. You know what I mean? Like, or I don't know. It depends. It really depends. I feel like there are friends that you can share certain things with them and they'll be like a vault and they'll be empathetic and understanding and like sensible about like, okay, well, this is what's going on. So maybe this is what's going on because there's context. But I don't think a lot of these women are really friends. I think maybe they have seen each other in the same circles, you know, maybe being on the scene. And I think it is a better representation of New York women, but New York City women, even though like I would like another brown skinned girl in the mix, but we'll take what we can take. Next up, we have Jessel getting Sai together and talking about her IVF and her postpartum depression. And she basically let Sai know, like, you're going to let me talk right now. And I love that. I was like, get her, Jessel. But anyway, Erin and Sai both imply that Pavitt was cheating. And my question is, what are y'all husbands doing? Let me tell you something. They got the right ones on the show. Because the way I would start digging around and asking questions and trying to drive any little wedge I can between them and their husbands for doing that shit to me, oh baby, I would be dragging them. Any little bits and pieces I could find from the blogs, from gossip, from whatever, from rumors, oh, I would be stirring shit up. You gonna drag me? I'm gonna bring you with me. Trust and believe. Anyway, guys, this was my review for the Real Housewives of New York, part 1. Okay, let's get down in those comments, y'all. Let's chat. Don't forget to hit the like button for me. It's a free way to support my channel. It doesn't cost anything. If you don't want people going through your likes, you can set the settings to private if that's an issue for you. So go ahead and hit like, hit subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you for the next one. Have a great rest of y'all day. Peace.
Oh, you fancy, huh? Let me see your hands. Wave them at them bitches hating on you with their friends. Girl, you got it.